Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for April 23rd, 2021. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating the meeting, and also here are Michael Herschel, who's sharing his screen, Aaron McHale, Ben Mullins, Gaurav Malawat, and Thomas Howell. So, Mike, take it away, please.
Yeah. So the first issue that we're going to talk about is a Olivero stable blocker. This is issue 3190120. And basically, this is an accessibility issue, but we also want to run it by the UX team. And basically, when the items in the drop-down menu have focus, we always need to ensure that they're in the viewport. And this is because if you have like a kind of a wider viewport and a shorter viewport, stuff can go out. So I'm going to demonstrate the problem really quick, and then I'm going to demonstrate my solution, and then we can look at the comments, and I'll tell you what I'm looking for from you all. So the first thing is I'm going to demonstrate the problem. So this is Olivero running the latest Drupal, right here. And so you can see, like, if we open up these drop downs right here, the menus get cut off right there, And so if I tab down here, what'll happen is I can tab to things that are not in the viewport. And that's the bug right here. This is an accessibility issue. So let me show you the solution that we have right here. So I'm going to open up the solution. I think this is it. And I'm going to open this up. And so you can see right now we have a drop-down, or I mean a scrollable div right here, right? So I'm going to kind of show you how that works. You just tab, and as you tab, the browser just like brings it and make sure it's visible. And that's just kind of the way that that's not JavaScript or anything. That's just browser stuff right here. So that's what we have right there. So there's been a little bit of discussion, including from you and Benji. And so let me make this a little bit bigger here. And so a couple of things that we noticed right here is during the review process, we saw, like, if you open this up with Firefox, you can actually select a container, and then you can use the arrows to go up and down. That doesn't happen with Chrome. But also, like, what happens is if you use the cursor down, it'll kind of scroll the whole page. Now, all of those are default browser behaviors, and for various reasons, including like technical debt, accessibility, and like myriad of other things, we don't want to override these browser behaviors, even when they're inconsistent across browsers, because it's just like it's a tough road to go down, and it'll make everything. So what I'm looking for from the usability team is just like an okay that says that when we have a wide viewport and a short viewport, you got to remember that this is only this is kind of like a little edge case here, but it's an important one. It's okay to have these like little scroll bars to go up and down, and you can kind of see right now I'm using my wheel mouse, and if I go to the bottom and keep on going, it'll go out. But that's the behavior, and that, as I said, those are like default browser behaviors that we don't want to like override the scroll events and stuff. So does anyone have any questions on this, or any concerns, or any thoughts?
Something that I think would also be worth showing is in the unpatched version, if there are menu items that are out of view, can they be accessed via mouse?
No, they cannot.
Okay, so we have a focus visibility issue and potentially a inability to access.
Yeah, I mean, you can also like scroll down, obviously. Well, actually, no, you can't. You can't even scroll down because it's fixed. So yeah.
So that actually makes a solution to this more urgent, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So just to clarify what you said, or when you're on that page right now, if you have the menu open, you can't scroll the page. Is that what you're saying?
You can scroll the page, but the problem is that the navigation goes to position fixed. And when the navigation goes to position fixed, then you cannot get to the bottom of these menu items.
Oh, so okay. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that Olivero navigation is goes fixed. I haven't. It's a great theme, but I just haven't played with it enough to.
Yeah, yeah.
really
It
care.
does it. It does it when you scroll down. So like normally, like let's kind of take a look right here. Normally it's like this, and then it goes and like kind of hides itself under this little menu, and you can open and close it. And the state of this menu is now persistent and stuff like that. So if you reload the page, it'll remember that you're kind of have it open and stuff. But yeah, it stays at the top and things like that. So that's basically what it looks like. And something that you notice, well, here, I think that's a
Are
default
you,
one.
is it just me or is the screen share kind of frozen?
My Zoom's been absolutely crap in general. I can stop and restart if you want.
Yeah, I think if it's not just me.
Yeah, I think it was frozen.
Okay, let me stop and restart here. All right, so now you should just see the homepage of Olivero. I'm moving around my mouse. I don't know if you can see that.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's still coming up.
Man, I don't know if it's my internet. I've been having some issues. I'm actually hardwired with an Ethernet cord at this point because I've been having some issues and trying to troubleshoot it. So I can, did you see enough to kind of at least get an idea of like what the problem is and what's going on and things?
The problem's very evident, but I was curious what the patch looked like when you were navigating with the page open, because I didn't get to see that. You only showed the patch with the window kind of shrunk to the cutoff position.
Yeah, so if the viewport is very large, I don't know if you can see my screen right now. Can you see my screen by chance?
No, unfortunately not.
Darn it. Let me start again and restart. I'll also throw that tugboat link into the UX channel right here. So this, hold on. So I'm gonna throw, all right, so in the UX channel, so with fix applied, there you go. You can test it out yourself. So the answer, as I understand it, is you're asking what does it look like if you have a tall viewport, and the answer is you don't notice anything. It doesn't show any scroll bars or do anything like that. It just looks like it looks like the pre and post patch look exactly the same.
Perfect. Okay. And that's, I don't even know if that was an issue. I was curious. Aesthetics wise, that would be the only complaint I have. Is it just looks a tad clunky. I would have expected the behavior without a visible scroll bar, but I understand that's the default browser behavior. And to me, I don't view that as a valid concern. So I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, because we don't want the scroll bar to show if you don't need it, obviously. So that's 100% valid.
So I like this solution. It's quite like it's just taking advantage of what we can already do with, I presume it's mostly just like CSS that's you're doing this
with.
Yeah,
You just muted yourself, Aaron. The one thing
there we go.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it's I guess I'm not the only one with Zoom problems today. It's yeah, it's because it's I've done this before, like with CSS, where you just you need some kind of like thing on the screen to have an inner scroll bar, and I quite like it. It's a nice elegant solution to like, it's just using stuff built into the browser. So I think it's a nice way to solve the problem, I guess, which I didn't even think about. If I was doing something like this, it probably wouldn't have crossed my mind at first, but it's obviously a nice solution, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't. Ben is the one that found the solution, so credit to him. But or not found the solution, but found the problem. And what's interesting is I looked at like other websites, like even like the Q's website, which is a prominent accessibility firm, and they don't solve this problem. They have a fixed header and everything, and they have that issue on their website. So I feel like kind of happy that we found a solution that isn't like crazy complicated. And yeah, and Benji, you said you were about to jump in that you had a concern.
Yeah, the one thing I really didn't like was one of the behaviors with Chrome. Are you using Chrome at the moment?
I am right now. Can you see my screen? I have no
Yes.
clue if it's actually showing good. Can you see me scrolling right now?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
Yep.
All right.
So can you make the window short and then
Sure.
start tabbing to open up?
Yeah, let's do it like this and all right. So here we are.
Okay, and now use the down cursor key or down arrow key.
Yeah, so we can.
Whoa, keep going.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
That's the part I don't like.
Yeah.
And you can get it back at this point with tab or shift tab. Now, I understand your point that you don't want to override the browser's decision on how to handle scrolling. And what's going on here for everyone else, you and I know this, and Ben, is that when we get to the bottom of this navigation window and we hit the down arrow one more time, we then scroll the whole window. And then when we scroll the whole window, that triggers the whole header menu to fly away.
We could probably create a follow-up that says if something in the menu has focus, don't close that header menu. Like that would be a that would be something that I think would be valid.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing I pointed out on the issue, Ben says is not related to this patch. So there's already going to be a follow-up for that one.
Okay.
It's the escape behavior.
There is a way to solve that, because I've done this before, where if you're in that exact situation where you're in.
Oh, mute.
Yeah, you muted yourself right where you were talking.
Okay, so there's a solution. In some ways it's kind of elegant, where with CSS you can essentially just like you can I forget the exact way, but you basically with CSS you tell the browser to effectively fix its position or like remove the scroll bar when you have this particular element active or open. I could find it and put it in the issue, because I can't remember the exact like thing that you do, but it's basically like you target when you've got the menu open and you need a scroll bar in it, you then target the body or HTML elements, and you tell the browser, hey, just don't scroll when you're in here, and that kind of stops the browser from scrolling if you get to the bottom of that list, and then a scroll bar reappears when you exit it. I don't know if that's an ideal solution, but it is one solution.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested in that. So what you're saying is like a CSS property that says if you're using your arrow keys and going down there, it will tell the browser not to scroll past that.
Yeah, it's more like it'll make the browser scroll bar disappear effectively and then stop scrolling. Like it effectively disables scrolling on the main browser. It's one of those like overflow. It's the effect of like applying the overflow property to the body and HTML elements. But again, I'll find exactly what it is because I can't remember, and I'll post that in the issue as a possible option.
That's interesting, but at the same time, like if you're doing that, it's requiring like a little bit of JavaScript in there, which like I'm trying to, from my point of view, I'm trying to minimize that just from like number one, a technical debt, even though it's not like and then there's a certain performance theme, even though this seems like pretty lightweight.
Yeah, I think that's all just CSS though. I don't think you need JS to do it. But again, I'll clarify an issue because I really can't remember.
You would need JS to toggle the class on the body.
Let's discuss that offline.
Okay.
Sounds like
Yeah.
something
Well,
worth discussing, but
yeah,
not right now.
yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for preventing the bike shed. So to clarify, this is a blocker right here. So I want to get this in, and anything else I would like to create. I would like to have and follow up issues where we can bike shed everything. So from my point of view, is it okay to say like from a usability standpoint, this is good?
It's certainly an improvement. And I guess I'm not going to say that any of the remaining problems are necessarily blockers.
Okay. Does anybody? Yeah, and I mean, feel free to speak up if they are, but also keep in mind that this is also like one of those. It's a slight edge case. You know, you have to have a wide browser and not in the mobile browser. You have to have wide. You have to be in like the wide navigation, and then have a short menu, and then have a long drop down menu. So there's like 3 things that need to happen. So if anyone else, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd agree with Benji. I think this is obviously a good thing to get committed, and then certainly the other things it would be, I think the other behavior, like, and what we're talking about is like fixing something that's niche, and then again something that's even more niche, so could definitely be done in the follow-up, in my opinion. I will just say, like, I think if you have a navigational menu where you've got so many elements that it ends up scrolling, I think that's a problem your own, you know, in itself, if you build a site like that. But that's just my opinion.
Although keep in mind, for accessibility, we also want to support people who zoom in by
absolutely, yeah,
that's and that's going to change things.
Yep.
And there's also certain common builds, like if someone had a really tall header and they were on an iMac Air and they increased the font size, you could really easily generate this kind of condition for a lot of users. So this seems like, I agree, this is helpful. And I would rather have this than not being able to access the bottom of the menu. So like, to me, this is definitely an improvement, but the follow-up issues would be concern as well. And so having those there and then addressing them would be great.
Cool. Okay.
And so once those follow-up issues exist, I'd give it accessibility sign off.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to make sure those are officially exist before I do that.
I will do that directly after this meeting, and then shoot it over to you in Slack. And if you can RTBC it, and then hopefully at that point we can get it in. I have one other one, but I also don't want to be like hogging this whole meeting, isn't like, so it's up to you, Benji, since you're running it, if you want me to go or if there's someone else that has something.
Yeah, so let me first point out that a couple of more people have joined the meeting, Antonia and Thomas. There was also briefly someone else on the meeting, Yvonne, who I think is the same person who mentioned in Slack that he had an issue he'd like to discuss, but he left. So as far as I know, there are no other issues that people want to discuss unless Thomas or Antonia, do you have something?
None, thank you.
Okay, then yeah,
Not right now. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine. Thanks. Yeah, so go ahead, Michael.
Cool. So let me bring up this issue right here. Give me just 1 second. So this is a CSS block, or this is a stable blocker. I have a solution for it, but and the solution
and the issue number, did we remember to read the issue number of the previous one?
I did read the issue number of the previous one.
Okay.
I'm bringing this one up right now. So give me just 1 second. I'll tell you what the issue is. Mobile tabs can be out of order right here. This issue is 3129257. And I'm going to explain the problem and then explain what I'm looking for. and then we can go from there. And Ben and I discussed this at length on Wednesday. So Ben, feel free to jump in.
All right.
So I'm gonna explain the problem. So let me show you what like the tabs look like right here. Like, so we're looking at these tabs, and let me show you the mobile tabs. I'm gonna refresh the browser right here. I hope y'all can see. And so normally, you know, you have things like create, you have the active one is the first one, and then the other ones show up. Now, oops. The problem, let me refresh the page, is that if I load the page and I have the wide tabs, and then I make the page narrow, the create new account is not the first. Now, I have a patch that solves this problem, and it works exactly like you think it is. I'm not even going to like demo it, but the problem, and I also want to state that Claro solves this problem in basically the same way. But so discussing this with Ben on Wednesday, he was concerned from accessibility point of view. He was concerned that, hey, you want to move this from the second item to the first item, that like violates some WCAG rule on like consistent navigation or something like that. Like, okay, but that's the way Claro does it. He's like, well, Claro might be violating this. We need to revisit this. So that is like, this is going to go down like a little bit of a road right here. Now, what I'm looking from the usability point of view is like, is this a minor enough issue that we can remove this from the Claro or from the Olivero stable blocker list? And at that point, we can solve this holistically somewhere outside of Olivero and then do the Olivero work. Now, keep in mind that this only happens if you load the page at a wide viewport, then resize to the narrow viewport. That's the only time people will ever run into this. That could happen in the real world if someone's rotating their phone, but like it's in my opinion somewhat unlikely. So what I'm hoping for from everyone, and you know, feel free to disagree, is that like, yeah, this is kind of an edge case, doesn't need to be a stable blocker. Let's discuss this at length, and at that point, you know, we can still, you know, stabilize Olivero and make it the default without this.
Does this
Given
behavior happen in reverse? Like if you start, what happens if you start with a mobile size view and then expand?
I'm guessing it will happen in reverse actually. So let's, all right, so I just refreshed it in a mobile view. Yeah. So it happens if you resize, if you load the page and then resize. You have any thoughts on this, Ben?
Which one are you on again? This is the current behavior, not the fixed behavior.
Correct. Yeah. Right now we are. Right now this is Drupal 9. Drupal 9.2.x.
So yeah, I guess I wanted to clarify that the concern I had with this being reported as a bug is that I think the existing behavior is more accessible, because what is being requested and what is currently Claro's functionality is to rearrange the tabs on mobile, and that violates consistent navigation. And if you can go back to mobile width,
Sure.
I want to explain why the tabs get rearranged. The purpose of that was, so when those secondary tabs are collapsed, it displays the current tab that is being shown. And my opinion is that when it's collapsed, it's not really showing, it doesn't need to visually be displayed as a tab because it's not next to the other tabs. In that state, it's not actually a tab because the sibling tabs aren't present. And so this may be for a later issue, but my thought is that when collapsed, it's more equivalent to a breadcrumb and not a tab. It's only when that's open that it should look like a tab.
So just to also clarify, what you're saying is the proposed solution is the same as what they do in Claro. And that is, if I understand correctly, that the tab order doesn't like change under the seams, but when you click that expand button, the create account would be like the middle option and not the top option. Is that right?
No, the way that Claro does right now is Claro rearranges the tab order.
Okay, so the tab order becomes inconsistent in that sense. Okay.
Correct, yeah. So Claro is also violating the inconsistent navigation rule too. So the patch that I have that, you know, if we were to commit it would probably be good, basically replicates Claro's functionality. But Claro is violating this accessibility rule. So what I'm looking for right now is the okay to remove this from a stable blocker as we discuss what should be the correct solution holistically between, like, for all of Drupal.
Yeah, personally, I am okay with that. And partly because we are, at least at the moment, then following a previously established pattern that is already in core. The pattern may violate an accessibility issue, but I think that because it's already there, we're not introducing a new like pattern, so to speak. We're just using an existing one.
Well,
And sorry, go ahead.
I want to interrupt you for a second there. Keep in mind that this patch is that completely replicates Claro's functionality is not yet committed. It's being held up by this. So
the Claro one isn't in yet.
No, the Claro one is in. The Claro patch is in, but the Olivero the Olivero functionality that replicates that is not yet in. Does that make sense?
In other words, if we want Olivero to follow the same pattern as Claro, then we need to commit the pending patch.
Correct, and that would require a Ben sign off.
And I don't think I'm going to sign off on what's there.
Okay.
And had I done an the Claro functionality was created before I would have been in a position to do an accessibility review, but it wouldn't have passed there either. So that's kind of the sticky issue is that I want to file an issue against Claro to change this because it is it's violating the consistent navigation criteria.
So what I want to get in right now is like I want to deprioritize this issue. And so it's not going to be worked on until, you know, there's a solution that goes through, you know, the accessibility maintainers, the UX team, you know, gets probably bike shedded a little bit as things tend to happen. All that's going to probably be at the earliest several months. And if we wait for that, that means that there's no way that we can get Olivero in. So what I'm hoping is that this is such a minor edge case because it requires resizing the browser, which, you know, is not too common of a thing. That you all feel that that's okay, that we can deprioritize this and we could potentially get Olivero in.
And again, our focus in this meeting is usability, not accessibility.
Correct. Yeah.
The links are all there. Certainly as a sighted user with a mouse, I can click on them. It's clear what each one is going to do. I think if I'm using the keyboard or screen reader, the same is still true. I might have to tab forwards and backwards to get to the one I'm looking for. But I don't see a usability problem here.
Perfect.
Well, that's my opinion.
Oh yeah, I like your opinion. I guess my excitement couldn't be contained.
But let's let other people disagree if they want to.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I don't disagree. I like the suggestion that this be worked on from the current core perspective of fixing Claro, especially since Ben is going to be opening a ticket. And then once it's fixed in Claro, then you just move the behavior here. To me, that's a natural order of operation. It doesn't make sense to deliberately break this, knowing that what's in Claro would be a bug. That would be introducing a bug to Olivero. And so I don't see how we can make a stable blocker out of something that is deliberately introducing a bug. So like, to me, that would be paradoxical, and it should be deprioritized pending the fix in Claro. Now, if Claro next week came up with a solution, then I would say that this should be reprioritized and you get that fix in. But until such a time as a fix to Claro exists, it makes no sense to make Olivero dependent upon solving the problem on its own.
Does anybody have any disagreements or anything else to add?
Well, if it counts, I don't think it should be a stable blocker either. I think it's an interesting issue though. Starting to think if maybe Flexbox order properties might work some magic there without changing the markup per se. But yeah, that's
We've
in the
looked,
scope of the issue.
yeah, just for a heads up, we looked into the order property, but like the problem is that that introduces some inconsistent tabbing orders and certain browsers, and so like, but I agree with you, that would be nice.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I think I hear consensus that this should not be a stable blocker for usability reasons.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I will add a note, remove that from stable blockers, and at that point, whenever we have a fix as for Drupal as a whole, at that point we can, you know, implement this and go from there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Those are all the things I have for the usability group this week. So thank you.
Thanks. And let's see, another couple of people have joined the call. Ofer, hello. I'm sorry, Ofer. And Ivan, is it?
Yes, hi everyone. Ivan.
Hi, and I think, Ivan, you have an issue you'd like to present? If you can bring it up and share your screen. Ofer, is there anything you wanted to bring up to the meeting?
Nope, here to
Okay.
participate.
For my side, this is the first time that I joined to this call, so I didn't know the process. I don't know if I'm ready to share my screen showing the fix of the issue or the general workflow to demonstrate the issue and the fix. So yeah, I don't know what to do in this case, because maybe I will take some time to prepare my a local environment with the fix.
Well, if you can bring up the issue and at least discuss the problem, if not the fix, or if you can't, I can bring up the issue. And also let me take a moment to respond to Antonia's point. Your opinion is definitely matters in this meeting. None of us has a final word on usability. Most of us are not usability experts by any stretch of the imagination. And the strength of this meeting is that we have a diversity of viewpoints and we want to give everyone a chance to talk. We have, as I often say, site builders, we have back-end developers, front-end developers, and designers. And we like to get everyone's opinion.
Thanks, Benji.
So I guess I can share my screen and show the issue. Here we go. So
I think it's doing that again,
not
but I don't know if it's
that
just me.
libraries on.
Oh, no, there it is.
Can people see my screen?
Yeah, it's there for me now. It just took a minute. I thought it might have been the problem that we had earlier.
Okay, so this is issue 3129235. Ivan, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, this is a simple one. In general, currently, when you enable the insert media items on the CK editor, you are restricted to only one at a time. So we don't know the reason behind that behavior, but you are restricted to put only one. So you open the media library when you click on the button, and you can select only one at a time, and you insert that one. And if you need another one, you will do the same process multiple times. But I think we don't need really that restriction, because you can select multiple items in the media library, and then you can add all of them at the same time. And the CK editor is already capable to sort the items, to drag and sort them in some way. So I think there is no a real usability issue on that, allowing to select multiple. So I provide a patch with the testing for that patch, and to be able to do so, to have no limit on the items that you can select on the CK editor when you are embedding media items.
Okay, if you give me just another moment,
Uh,
I think.
I know there was another Drupal user that mentioned that maybe we can allow this to be discussed in the usability for the usability people, and to see what do they think about this, about the possible weird things. But I already tested in my local. Sorry that I couldn't show you, but yeah, in general that's the issue.
So here I have a site running current Drupal 9.2.x, and do I have my microphone on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. And we're talking about the add media option, and I can choose something, and then as soon as I select one thing, everything else fades out. I can't choose a second item. I can insert it. Isn't there a way to make this bigger? So I've
I think
inserted
it should be
that.
replaceable in the corner, but yeah, yeah, it's weird that it doesn't appear.
So that's what we're talking about, this limitation that I can only add one item at a time.
Yes, for example, we found a workflow when we have some editors trying to add multiple PDF files. So to add a list of PDF files, they needed to put one item and the other one and then the other one. So for them, it was easier to maybe just take maybe 5 or 10 at the same time, and just they can sort the items in some way, and that's all.
Does the source look different between the use case where it's the default of adding a single image and if you try to add multiples at once, or does it generate the same source?
Yeah, it generates the same source, and it adds the same structure in the CK editor. Um, and maybe I didn't test if it comes in a predictable order. Maybe it is taking. I didn't know, because I didn't test with maybe with more than 5. But maybe we can do that. I can do that in my patch. Try to see that maybe if we can. What is the order that we are taking by default when we are selecting more than one? So I don't remember if it is taking like an alphabetical or a date or something like that. But in general, I didn't see that as a problem, because you still have the the drag and drop functionality for the items in the CK editor.
Understood. Thank you.
Let's see. Why don't we see a tugboat preview on this issue?
I think with, yeah, you have to have a fork, but yeah, you have a fork, I don't know.
So let's say I've just applied the patch locally. And now I can choose 3 things and insert selected. I only see one thing here.
Do you need to clear the cache?
I believe
Maybe
I did
yes,
that.
maybe yes, because there is a JavaScript file that is involved in this patch. So maybe it's needed to clear the cache.
So I did clear the Drupal cache, but I just did a force reload of the page.
If there was a JavaScript file, maybe it need to be compiled.
I put the both versions as,
Okay.
as suggested in the contribution.
Can you please paste in the chat the issue number?
Yes, I can find my chat window. I think I closed the chat window actually a few minutes ago. There we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Or
Benji,
there's
can you
also the
check
whole
if you
link.
have any errors in your console in the DevTools? Maybe something went wrong. And if not, then I'm guessing that the JavaScript is working correctly, but something else needs to be done additionally to that.
The only thing modified when I applied the patch was Drupal media library.php. So that's a CK editor plugin. I don't see any JavaScript.
Maybe it is.
Oh.
There are two. There are
On the
two commits.
when I went to the
think.
latest one, it's not in a regular patch. What I would suggest, if you go to the bottom of this issue,
Okay.
click on
Yes,
it and you
maybe.
can add the word patch to that. Click on the 583 BC above the green message. Yep. I believe if you add the word patch to this, or maybe to the 432, one of them creates patch for you. Let me try it here on my machine. It's possible that we need to add it to the 432.
I think there's a button. There's a button to get a patch file in somewhere.
Yeah. So this is if you add to the 432 dot patch, or the link I sent in the chat, it creates for you that patch from.
432.patch. That's good.
And this one
enough.
does include like JavaScript updates.
Well, Git warns me that I'm adding some JavaScript errors, but there we go. Now
That's
it's working.
nice.
Once I have the right patch. So what sort of usability issues might this introduce? I think the interface for selecting multiple things is pretty clear. I don't see any unexpected behavior. It does what I expect it to do when I select multiple items. If there are problems with the order, I think we can let people discuss that on the patch. I don't see offhand any usability problems here. Does anyone else?
Is that the same? Okay, so Media Library has support for inserting multiple things at once, but it, you know, as we've seen, only not in terms of CK editor, but if you have like a media field that brings up the on a entity, it brings up the media library. So I guess is this interface just using? I presume the patch is just causing this to use the version of the media library that allows selecting multiple things.
No, in this case, there was an implicit restriction. When you see one part of the patch, you will see that I'm replacing a 1 because it was a hard code 1 number in the code in the Drupal core, and I replaced it by the unlimited constant for Drupal fields. So yeah, maybe.
Okay, yeah. So this really is just using the interface that's already in core basically for the media library, and then most of it is what happens when you insert into the editor. So the pattern that we're seeing of the checkboxes in the media library is already, I guess, is already established in core.
Yeah, from what I can tell, this patch is removing a restriction that was put on purpose before that.
What I can say for sure is I'm getting increasingly more hungry when looking at Benji's screen. Not sure if that's just me, but
and there's no record at all of why the hard code was put in the first place, because it sounds like a deliberate choice.
On top of the issue, there's a few things that it's mentioning of why it might be a reason.
Yeah,
I think it was
idea.
from
So Adam has a comment number 6 explaining
there
why.
It is.
And to keep in mind, could be a little similar to the Olivero process. there was an urgency to get things stable in core, and sometime in order to avoid long discussion, by creating a limitation, it solves some problems or discussions. And that's what it seems to me. Like, not that there was a real issue, but
What I'm reading here from Fina Proxima doesn't sound like a complaint so much about this patch, just that there's a desire for added functionality. That if you allow multiple to be added, the belief is it should be orderable, and it sounds like you can drag and drop within the UI. You can cut and paste the source. So it's really not, it doesn't appear to me to disallow anything there from a usability perspective. Rather, an improvement or a new issue would be adding an interface after selecting multiples where you could then select the order before saving. So I
yeah.
could see that an improvement, but that doesn't seem to be a showstopper to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this is a valuable improvement in of itself. I mean, the fact that this inserts multiple things, like it's solving a problem. That like the fact that we don't have an interface for just easily dragging and dropping media around is not something that's exacerbated necessarily by this issue, because as was originally described, if someone wants to insert multiple things, they're going to have to open the media library multiple times, and then they still have to drag them and drop them around in the editor if they need to like reorder them. I mean, maybe they get more control by doing it one at a time, but I still think this is worth adding to get that extra quality of life improvement for content designers. Yeah, so I think this is a good improvement. Whether we need follow-up issues to look at those other aspects, I maybe, but I think this should be progressed.
You know, when I hover over this little crosshair, a pop-up says click and drag to move. And that suggests that I can reorder things, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, I think everything here is like the result of what you just did by adding multiple would be exactly the same if you went 3 times to the media library and add each one manually.
Yes, I wanted to say that this is exactly the same behavior that you will have if you add one at a time. So yeah, in general, it is not adding usability issues.
Yeah, I think I agree, and the consensus seems to be that this is not a problem with the patch you're proposing. This is a problem with CK Editor, that it doesn't seem to work, that you can't rearrange things. So how they get there is a separate problem. And
would it be that the images are very big, and if you had them somehow smaller, it would be easier to move it? I'm just guessing here.
Well,
yes, I think that's the issue, because I tested that with documents, and normally documents doesn't have just like a thumbnail icon and a text, and so you can see multiple at the same time, and it is easier to sort them.
Okay, so we are getting towards the end of our time. I think people generally like this change, and I understand Adam's comment, or Fina Proxima, that when they first introduced the feature, they were cutting corners, cutting features for simplicity to get it in. I think at this point it's a good addition.
I think also to note is because Drupal will fingers crossed, the next major release will be moving to the next version of CK Editor, depending on how that project goes. But that may, those improvements in drag and drop of large things, because essentially what we're seeing is a usability issue in CK Editor itself when it comes to dragging and dropping large things. That may be, I can't speak for CK Editor, but maybe they're working on that. So it might be worth having a follow-up issue to explore it, even if it's just, is this something CK Editor is addressing? If not, should we address it? Should CK Editor address it, kind of thing?
Okay. And we are at the hour and several people have already dropped. Let's wrap it there. And I hope many of you can make it next week. And I plan to be here. And thank you all for participating.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks everyone for bringing the issues.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
great
Thanks,
weekend.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.